It's so embarrassing. Iranian women are like fighting for their lives, and we're like, men can get pregnant.
It's humiliating. It's humiliating. You almost want to just let the left hang themselves with this.
It was a fad. Because Trump already killed that.
It was a fad. But here's where it is dangerous, is where we do have a doctor on national television being asked 12 times, can men give birth?
Violence and protests have erupted across Minnesota. We have so many Democrats and liberals basically labeling these law enforcement officers as Nazis simply for doing their job.
Obviously, you can shoot tires and then just stop the car.
She used a lethal weapon against him. She hit him with the car, and he incurred internal injuries. That's self-defense.
27 states have now banned biological men from participating in women's sports.
But it is the schools where this hogwash is actually
Dr. Loudon,
taught.
It is the schools, but there's something even more poisonous going on. It's the Netflixes of the world. I just want to watch a single TV show without some random like transgenderism, LGBTQI plus individual like thrown in my face.
Wait, Janel didn't watch it. Can I
season.
reenact it for you? Okay. The world is ending. Guys, I need to tell you something.
Oh yeah.
I'm not like you guys. We have fun and we play games together and we hang out, but I don't like girls. The meme is that it took Trump 6 minutes to kidnap Maduro, but Will coming out gay on Stranger Things took 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Like, you can't make
I see what it is now.
Hi everyone, we are so excited to be back. Thank you so much for joining Her Take today. My name is Lindy Li and I have 3 amazing guests with us today. We have Emily Austen, Dr. Gina Loudon, and Janel Baez. And starting with Janel, she is a political commentator and strategist bringing sharp, no-nonsense takes on today's biggest issues. Thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Dr. Gina Loudon is a psychologist, author, and nationally known media voice who always tells it straight. And of course, Emily Austen is a sports reporter and broadcaster delivering bold takes at the crossroads of sports and culture. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
We have quite an agenda for you today, starting with immigration and the ICE crackdown, all that's going on in Minnesota and all across the country. Then we're going to talk about the transgender cases before the Supreme Court, which has the potential to remake girls and women's sports around the country. You don't want to miss that. Then we're going to talk about RFK's changes at the FDA, including the food pyramid, including his new vaccine schedule for children. And we're going to end on Iran, one of the biggest news stories around the world. And I know a lot of the women on this stage right now have a lot to say about that topipic. So I'm really excited to get started.
All of them.
Yes.
All of these topics are so good.
Absolutely. I am so excited, and we're going to be fiery as hell, but we're not going to scratch each other's eyes out as well.
We'll try. We're
going to be
the Middle Easterns.
Don't worry, I got you.
We're going to be heated, but we're not going to be hateful. Anyway, so we're going to...
Anna's not here, but okay.
All right, so we're going to talk about the ICE shooting. I know a lot of you guys have a lot of heated opinions about this, and I certainly do as an immigrant myself, but violence and protests have erupted across Minnesota in the days after the death of Renee Good by an ICE officer. And I would love to get your ladies' take on whether you thought that shooting was legitimate, whether you thought it was warranted, or maybe the ICE officer was out of line. But in any case, I just think it's so curious, and I want to get your views on this. I think it's so curious that we have so many Democrats and liberals basically labeling these law enforcement officers as Nazis simply for doing their jobs. We have laws on the books that need to be enforced. Why is it suddenly so far right to just simply to do their job? Ladies, what do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I honestly, I'm very pro-ICE on everything that has to do with military. I'm an ex-military wife. I've lived on a military base, so I love our country and our military, of course. But there is a certain way that I think you should be doing your job, and a lot of people are excusing the fact that because she was being defiant, that it was okay to, to kill her. I don't agree with that because there's other methods. Obviously, you can shoot tires and then just stop the car from going where it was wanting to go, She
used a lethal weapon against him. First, she hit him with the car, and he incurred internal injuries. That's self-defense.
Yeah. I see it differently. I don't think, and I saw it from different angles, I don't think that she was really trying to kill him. I think she was trying to get away, although she did maybe hurt him, how they're reporting to do so. I still believe that, especially as a woman, and you have a real weapon in your hand, I would have shot the tires. I would have not exactly shot at her face. And then you just stop the car automatically.
Would you have shot the tires before or after
in front of the car,
she hit him?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like his body was like adjacent to the front of the engine.
I also
so
wanna
how do you shoot somebody who his body was right in front of the car?
Physically, he couldn't have shot the
also,
tires.
what do you think is going to happen when you insert yourself into the middle of a chaotic situation?
That's my point. If
why are you there in
I'm
the
against
first
someone
place?
that has a weapon, first of all, you need to know your place. That's A. Isabella Marie DeLuca, who was on this show, actually tweeted it pretty accurately. She's saying when the FBI came to my house on January 6th, like, I didn't resist. Unfortunately, she thinks she was innocent. I think she's innocent as well. She complied. And it's just about knowing your place. Right there and then, first of all, the argument she was trying to go home, she left her home to actively disrupt law enforcement from doing their job, which is a crime. Is it a crime warranted of death penalty? No, not necessarily. My question is, how low IQ do you have to be to even, by the way, you want to like resist, get out of your car. You don't try to run somebody over. And maybe she didn't try to run him over, but that did in fact happen. And it wasn't like a soft brush. You said you saw different angles. She like easily could have killed him if he was in.
Well, he
like,
had internal
one inch
injuries.
over.
He
did.
had internal
People
bleeding.
are really down.
You have to hit somebody pretty hard for them to have internal bleeding. And I don't know. I've been a protester as one of the 100 founding members of the Tea Party. I can tell you that we gave the police officers cookies when they came to our protests because we wanted them there to keep security. You either believe in the rule of law or you don't. She was not there because she believed in the rule of law. And she did have a deadly weapon, and the officer was injured. And by the way, he had already been hit before.
And by the way, speaking of the officer, I want to be very clear about who this man is. A lot of Democrats are labeling him as some sort of criminal. And
yes,
he married an Asian woman, a Filipino wife. He is a white Christian conservative man. He is a father in Iraq War veteran who served admirably in the Indiana National Guard, boasting 2 decades of combined military and law enforcement service, okay? This is a man who has given his life to the nation's service. He's deserving of praise. And I just think it's absolutely horrifying that Democrats are now saying that following the law on the books is somehow wrong, even though in the era of Obama, they were praising their savior, basically. And
I don't think Janel's defending, like, to do that.
Wait, before we get into the discussion, I do want to present all the facts. During the age of Obama, he is advocating for some of the same policies that Trump is implementing now. But where were the Democrats then?
And where was the media, by the way?
Oh, they were there. CNN used to cover ICE like brave heroes. They used to praise them.
But they weren't filming the interactions with ICE because they looked just the same. It was just a different president.
Empirically speaking, Obama deported so many more
5.2 million.
So many more
immigrants,
illegal aliens than did Trump. The only difference, though, is that Trump is deporting people from the homeland, from the inland of America, whereas most people that Obama deported were on the periphery of the United States.
I didn't know that.
But either way, it doesn't matter. These Democrats, they don't actually intrinsically believe in anything. They do whatever is in their political interest. Connor, can we please play the clip of Obama bragging about his,
immigration?
Exactly.
Because we are a nation of immigrants. We're also a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable.
Amen.
Especially those who may be dangerous.
Yes.
That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%.
Perfect.
And that's why we're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security.
Wonderful. And then we have another clip of Obama slamming the Bush administration for not doing more on illegal immigration.
By the way, Bush deported 10 million.
This administration, the Bush administration, has done nothing to control the problem that we have. We've had 5 million undocumented workers come over the borders since George Bush took office. It has become an extraordinary problem. And the reason the American people are concerned is because they are seeing their own economic position slip away. And oftentimes, employers are exploiting these undocumented workers. They're not paying the minimum wage. They're not observing worker safety laws. As president, I will make sure that we finally have the kind of border security that we need.
Perfect. And by the way, he wasn't the only one saying this. Bernie Sanders, a part of his claim to fame is saying that illegal immigration was bad. Bernie Sanders, the socialist icon, said that illegal immigration was a manifestation of Coke industry policies. That was some far right-wing scheme. And it's just, I have a
Immigration
final.
is also extremely dangerous because I'm sure you guys have heard of sleeper cells.
Yes,
oh my
let's
God, we
talk.
have so
Hold on to
many.
that thought. I just want to present one more video.
And I have a friend that lives in Idaho, and she actually.
I want to hear more about
She was
that.
sharing her experience with me.
I have one more video about Obama.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. So one last one about Obama. Did you know that under his watch, 56 people died under ICE? Nobody knows that, right?
I'm sure there were more.
I'm guessing you guys never heard about that, right? Never
Heard
peep.
that. Nope.
But suddenly, under Trump, 1 or 2 people died, and the whole world is going to hell.
Well, it's not
Can we
just.
play this video? This is.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
It's wild how short people's memories are. Under Obama administration, 56 people died under ICE custody. 56. That's not a conspiracy. That's public record. According to
this
the
is coming from a black
ACLU,
woman.
under Obama, under ICE, failures of medical care, ICE malpractice. The list is long as to why and how these deaths occurred. And somehow, no mass riots. Obama deported over 3 million people. Let's not forget that, people. I say that in so many of my videos. Millions. And a lot of them were fast removals. No real hearing, no judge, no full due process. And here's the part liberals don't like to bring up.
Thanks,
Tom
Connor.
Homan?
I think
Yeah,
it's, ladies, don't you think it's very curious that the same people who don't believe in borders are suddenly very concerned about Greenland?
Oh, yeah.
And Greenland's borders?
Because here's the thing. This has nothing to do with humanity, humanitarianism. This has nothing to do with it. This is about power and money and politics. That's all this is. 81% of Somali households in Minnesota are on government welfare. After 2020 census, Minnesota kept their 8th House seat by 89 people. So the margins are really small.
Yes.
And people forget, you know, these self-deportations, 2 million of them, the deportations that have taken
2.5
place.
actually, which is good.
Thank you. I always try to use low numbers so that they don't criticize me.
Trump deserves credit for everything.
He does deserve credit for him, no doubt. But that's what this is really about. They're worried about, and don't forget, censuses and congressional districts are amassed not by citizens, but by bodies. So every single body that is deported is a big risk to, guess what, Democrat politicians. That's what this is all about.
Dr. Loudon,
That's
you brought up such a brilliant point, because according to some studies, if it weren't for illegal aliens, Democrats would lose 20 House seats.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
Exactly.
But
and in California in particular, they would be down at least 2 to 3 House seats if it weren't for the counting of illegal immigrants.
I think it's
So, of
actually
course.
worse than that. I feel like this whole problem is about Trump derangement syndrome. And I know people joke about it, but I really believe it's an actual derangement syndrome in the brain that has to be cured. Because a lot of issues, and immigration is one of them, borders you mentioned, liberals are advocating for borders when it comes to Greenland. Why? They understand that it promotes security and safety. But when it comes to American borders, because Trump wanted the wall, it's bad. When it comes to transgenders in sports, and I know we'll discuss it a little bit later, a decade ago, Serena Williams, it was totally normal to say, no, it's not fair to have men in women's sports. And Democrats would support women in sports and uplift them and empower them. But today, when Trump's administration wants to get rid of men and women's sports because it's completely unfair and it's embarrassing we're even having this conversation, it's bad because Orange Man wanted it. So I don't think any of these people going against ICE give a damn about the United States. They don't care about immigrants, because the Nelk boys went door to door to all these people who said that they care about immigration and said, will you take them in their home? And they said, no. I have children, that's not safe. So they know it's a safety threat, but they don't care because it's not about safety. It's not about immigration, it's about hating Trump.
Honestly, to your point, every one of these people who supposedly welcome illegal aliens, I want them to donate the money first.
Oh, the money they'll do.
I want
Put them in your home.
Yeah.
Put them in your home. That's it.
Yes,
That's it. And to all of these people with a straw man argument that want to say all the time, oh, well, they said they were just going to deport the criminals. They're deporting others. Well,
all of them are criminals. If
all
you
of them are
step
criminals.
foot into the
Thank
United
you.
States without legal authorization, you are a criminal. I don't want to
What
hear
other
it.
country
There was
does that
another
happen
person.
to?
There was there was another panelist. There's been another panelist on this show, and I just want to make it unequivocally clear. If you step foot into the United States without a proper visa, you are a criminal.
Yes.
Okay, so do not say, oh, these people, they didn't do anything wrong. No, you violated the sanctity of American law by coming into our country without our authorization, period.
But there are conservatives out there supporting congresspeople who are advocating for amnesty for people who've lived here without committing crimes for 20, 25
because
years.
then you
But let me ask those people this question. If someone robbed you, broke into your home and robbed you 25 years ago, and we found them now, Do you want them prosecuted? That's the question. That's
Exactly.
the question right back to them. I definitely do. I think anyone does. And besides that, if we don't enforce the laws on our books, there's no reason to have a country.
Exactly.
I think a lot of people, though, are having issues with I mean, yes, the whole Trump derangement syndrome is very true and very accurate, but there's also been cases where ICE comes in and is just going into a Home Depot or, dollar stores, whatever, and they're just racial profiling. And, the person that they are actually arresting or taking into custody is yelling, I'm a U.S. citizen. And then they obviously release them because they say, yeah, they are a U.S. citizen. So sometimes they're just taking in these people with no cause at all. So I think that people see that also.
Those are very, it's not common. It happens once in a while, and it's deeply unfortunate, but I wouldn't say that's, the norm. That's
It's actually less than 0.001%.
And frankly, I think it's worth it.
And listen, if right now a chick with blonde hair that fits my description breaks in here and the cops want to take me in and question me for the sake of having law and order in this studio, I will gladly go in and be questioned. I don't care. Racially profile me all day long.
That's obviously unfortunate, but it's also not the norm. And I feel like people take the exception and they try to
exacerbate it.
Yeah, they
I
put it in the
just want to
media.
say, I applaud President Trump for all of his efforts. I'm so proud of him for doing this. And turns out what Biden and Harris, surprise, surprise, they lied to us when they said that the border isn't able to be closed and we needed an act of Congress. No, that was a complete fabrication.
Yep.
We just needed a president who was willing to actually do his job.
Proves it.
Yes.
Shocker.
But to be clear, and it's just, can we take a page from history for a second here? And not to take you guys back a couple thousand years, but let me do that anyway. During the Roman Empire, part of their decline was because they had porous borders, because they didn't enforce their national sovereignty. So you had barbarians at the gate, quite literally, which led to the downfall of the Roman Empire. Can we actually study history and try to understand so we don't make the same mistakes?
That's what they don't teach it in the schools anymore, is for exactly the reason you're saying, because then children can think critically and draw their own conclusions. I think we should say in this conversation the names Laken Riley, Jocelyn Nungaray, Rachel Morin, and also Brandon Mendoza are just a few of the many who have been killed. These angel parents are out there without their children forever, and none of the humanitarian talk is about them. No. I never understand that.
Because it's completely against their narrative. Remember how much flack John Fetterman got simply for supporting Lincoln Riley.
I love John Fetterman. He still votes to keep men and women's sports, so we're going to have to call him out on that. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take the W. I'll take the W.
There's still some aspect of him that's still that side, but yeah.
I want to give President Trump a lot of credit, but I do want to issue a little bit of criticism in that I wish he were doing more. But at the same time, I understand that he's
wish he were doing more in which?
Deporting more people. I want mass deportations.
Yeah.
Wait, hold on. I just want to say that I understand fully that a lot of it is because of resistance from these liberal hacktivists on these judges, on these benches, all around the country, including the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. They're notoriously liberal. And one more thing, I wish he were also targeting the employers. He's not really doing that. And part of the reason why I have to be honest here, because I want to be frank with our audience, and part of the reason why is a lot of these employers are his campaign donors.
Of course.
No,
that is just that's a given, obviously.
I have to level with you guys. So if President Trump, the
more deportations, but also hit it where it hurts the most, which is to go after the employers who are taking advantage of our system. Yeah. It's true. It's cheap labor for them, and it's really unfair. And then you want to talk about American jobs. So who's taking the American jobs? Wait, I want to read you the list of deportations by president. Clinton, 12.5 million, 0 protests. Bush, 10 million, 0 protests. Obama, 5.2 million, 0 protests. Joe Biden, Mr. Open Borders. Yes, he let in hundreds of thousands, if not millions, but he deported 7 million.
20 million by some counts.
Oh, my God. But he deported 7, whatever. It doesn't count because he undid that. And then Trump, 1.2 million.
And where were the cameras?
Well, this has to do with media, obviously. The media isn't as focused on the other deportations from other presidents, so...
They praised them. Of course, I saw a whole clip of CNN. It's like, here's a day in the life of an ICE agent, and he is a hero. And by the way, I just want to restore some common sense and revert. And I keep asking this question to liberals, and nobody answers me. You want to talk about ICE, you want to talk about law enforcement, you want to talk about police. People are defund the police. We're like Blue Lives Matter, but... who do people call when you're in trouble? Who is supposed to reinforce law and order and safety, if not law enforcement? You defund them. Serious question. Who are you calling for getting raped?
Yes, honestly though.
Who are you calling?
Emily, let
Therapist?
them be. Let them go down this path of defund the police. Let the Zoran
And then these
Mamdani's.
poor officers
But what
go
I
and they
mean,
sacrifice their
it
lives
is the
every day.
dumbest, most idiotic slogan you could ever come up with. Like honestly, if you had a lab and asked them to come with the most imbecilic slogan for the Democrats, it would be defund the police.
think so.
And, wait, hold on. There's actually a better one. That is probably the runner-up. The dumbest, stupidest one is abolish ICE. Like, please, keep going.
Same flavor.
There's going to be a Republican majority for the foreseeable future.
Yep.
I want them to do this.
I hope Kamala runs. I saw that she was running again.
Yes,
I was like, yes,
I mean,
please.
I wish we were
God is
covering,
so good.
I wish we were covering that today, but unfortunately, maybe come back next
So
time.
back to the sleeper cells. A lot of people, they say no because, you know, immigrants are here, you know, they work or whatever. They've been here for a very long time. What they don't know is when all these borders are open and all these immigrants are coming in from years and years ago, okay, not even Trump, okay, or not even Biden, we have people that are in sleeper cells that are spying on us, and you don't realize it because they just become part of the community. And you say, oh, that's my neighbor of 10 years. That's my neighbor of 15 years.
Have you watched
Little
the
do you
TV
know,
show?
that person is a spy for another country.
Have you watched the TV show The Americans?
Great point.
No.
Have you guys heard of them with
No.
Carrie Russell? It's precisely what you just
Wait, I wanna
mentioned.
watch
That's what it
it.
is.
It's fascinating. It's so good. It's
Wait, did you
Carrie
know-
And I have
Pennsylvania?
I have a friend that she was we're discussing it this past weekend, and she says, so for the past like 7 years, I've had Mexicans as my neighbors.
Okay.
She's like, okay, like I have eaten there with them. They've done barbecues. My children have played with them. Out of nowhere, one morning I wake up and now they are Arabs, but they have the same cars.
That's so bizarre.
They have the same 5 white cars.
That's that
Yeah,
English
hold on.
Yeah.
So Dr. Loudon brought up
committed
Dr. Loudon brought up a really good point off air. I just want to bring it to everyone's attention, and maybe if you want to tell our audience.
Yeah.
But Peter Schweitzer just came out with a book called The Invisible Coup.
Yes, The Invisible Coup. And he talked about how, first of all, Sheinbaum, obviously president of Mexico, is a socialist, card-carrying socialist, right? So with every incentive, by the way, to invade America, and has not been secretive about it. She considers California, Colorado, Nevada, Utah, Texas, and several other states, like that's about half of them, Mexican territory.
Oh, but Trump is bad for wanting Greenland.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. And here's the thing. She wants to rename North America Mexican
Yeah, I've heard
America. I mean,
Got
this
real,
is
like, come
this
on.
is a real thing that is happening. So what you're talking about, sleeper cells, that's not your friend's imagination. That's really happening.
Yes.
I had no idea that a lot of the illegals from Mexicans, which I have to admit, myself, I've become very tolerant there. I'm thinking, well, gosh, I guess as long as they're not Islamists who want to bomb us, then okay, let the Mexicans stay. They're cheap labor. You know, that thought has entered my mind. I'm not saying that I've said it, but I've
And
thought
again,
it.
and this is the exception because it's not.
It's not the exception, though.
Well,
That's the thing. It's
for
not the
sleeper
exception.
cells.
In terms of illegals, many of the illegal Mexicans are here on a mission, and maybe they're just very quiet about it. But we're going to find out because they are going to all of these states with 2 purposes: one, to socialize them, and 2, obviously. Well, obviously money, but the second one is obviously to completely turn these red states blue.
Yes, and to your point, a lot of them are also partnering with an organization called DSA, which is the Democratic Socialists of America.
Yeah,
These
exactly.
are extreme left-wing agitators.
Of which Sheinbaum is a member.
Exactly. I want to add to your point. I think there's a more insidious threat, and that's a Muslim Brotherhood.
Oh, of course.
And they have sleeper cells
They are
all
everywhere.
around. They have sleeper cells all around America, and frankly,
on the border.
And you
on the
mentioned-
border in Mexico.
You tell me that
Where they're trained.
it'll take us decades to find out. I don't want to find out. We should stamp them out right now. I don't even want to.
The Muslim
illegal is
Brotherhood are not
illegal.
in sleeper cells. The Muslim Brotherhood are our judges, our policemen, our congressmen. They
Yes.
they're not trying to hide it. They are outwardly,
Everywhere.
they're conquering our administration. They are conquering all of the law enforcement. Look at the UK. That is all Muslim Brotherhood going on. I asked Tommy Robinson, why are they not prosecuting pedophiles? Why are people getting away with mass rape of young children? And they say, because when they report it to the policemen, who's running the police force?
Yeah.
It's all the Muslim Brotherhood now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So they're silently conquering, and it's
and
not
the
a sleeper
cartels.
cell.
And the cartels.
True.
The cartels have
I've never
influence,
really
too.
been able to say this without, air and oxygen and space to say it, but I strongly believe that Islamic extremism is a huge threat to the United States. It just is. It's anathema to American values.
100%. The problem with Islamism, it is not compatible, not just with Western culture. You will hear that all the time. It's not compatible with our
East Asians
U.S.
either, to be
Constitution.
honest.
That's the problem. It's not compatible with our U.S. Constitution. So we're going to have to rectify this. And the way to start is to enforce our Constitution, enforce the laws that are on the books.
Yeah, I just think it's very unfortunate that people are violating our Constitution by exploiting illegal immigration. Let me give you a specific example. You mentioned the federal funding. The more people you have in a state, the more federal funding you have. You know what else you have? More congressional seating, more just federal power. So that is why Gavin Newsom is just throwing out the red carpet for illegal aliens.
Yeah,
that's why we are literally flying illegal aliens into this country. We're
But
not
they're
doing
your
that
friend and then
anymore.
they're not, because when they conquer you. And by the way, you want to talk about history lessons. Like, this is where I disagree with Democrats and I try to empathize with them, but people also need to address the reality. This entire world, and I don't make the rules, God did, it's all about conquering. Every time people say, well, Trump is setting a bad precedent for bombing Iran, and Trump is setting a bad precedent for buying Greenland, and other countries wouldn't do this. Yes, they would, and they are. Let me remind people, other countries have tried to murder our president multiple times. You just admitted Mexico is trying to infiltrate America. We have sleeper cells. Every country is trying to do the worst things possible to America because we are, in fact, the greatest nation. So the fact that we're just getting to this game, we're just late on it. We are late to this game because Biden was a weak president. Honestly, any Democrat leader doesn't play the game the right way, and we're just coming up to speed now.
And we've been
this is
too
a
nice.
problem that's been going on.
I'm
It's
actually
way too
going to
nice.
contextualize your history. Thank you for that history lesson. I'm going to contextualize it further and bring it back to Thucydides, which is from thousands of years ago. And he had something called the Melian dialogue, which is basically right might makes right, which underscores your point. If a country has power enough to do something, they will do it.
And they should.
And we are doing it because we are the biggest boy on the block. And I'm not going to make any apologies for that. We are the United States of America, and we get to do whatever we want. On that note, we are going to do whatever we want and go to the next topic, which is also similarly exciting. Extremely excited to hear your views on this, and that is Supreme Court cases on transgender, essentially biological men playing in girls and women's sports. Is that okay or not?
I'm a sports reporter. I see this actually happen.
It
in
is
my
definitely
field,
not okay.
and it's embarrassing.
Okay, I mean, first of all, you just have to think of, if you guys know about the Hermetic principles, they're like before religion, before anything. One of the principles is the law of gender, okay? The principle of gender, okay? You have male and female, okay? There's no in between, that's just what it is, okay? And if you believe in God, which I believe we all do, that's the way God intended it. So no, I don't believe that you should have men in women's sports and women and men's sports or in each other's bathrooms or anything of the sorts.
It's so
Absolutely
embarrassing.
not.
Iranian women are like fighting for their lives, and we're like, men can get pregnant. It's humiliating. It's humiliating.
The only thing that is
country.
concerning, however, is we have leaders of major corporations. Peter Thiel, he's married to a man. He believes in transgenderism. He believes in transhumanism, which is far beyond transgenderism, which is, you know, you're transferring now the heart into a different body, anything, the brain, whatever. So when we have people like that that are at the top of
That's very
corporations,
frightening.
Can I
at
tell you
top
something?
of
I don't
corporations,
care.
you say why, but then you know we have.
You should.
I don't care.
Thinks because he has influence on the vice
No,
president.
I understand.
Exactly.
I have
That's
no
what
problem
I'm
with transgenders. I have no problem. I had a classmate, she was a cat. I don't give a damn. That's mental health to me. I think transgenders do have something mentally off.
We
but
actually
it's not
had
my
a
problem.
transgender guest on the show. I don't know if you saw the episode, Blair White. She openly said that she has a mental disorder.
But that's fine, but that's not my
But
point.
there's a
My
difference
point is-
between
she just
adults and
agreed with you.
children. That's where you have to
No, that's
delineate.
pedophilia. My problem is transgenders. You do whatever you want behind closed doors. Leave the kids alone. Transgenders in sports is a problem for me because women did not spend decades fighting for women's rights to have a mixed league. I just want to bring it back to common sense for a moment. When we were fighting for women's sports, right? Why didn't we say, no, put us in the men's league?
Right.
No man wanted
Never
us in their
happened,
league
no.
because we are different. Men are better at sports. They have a biological advantage than we did. If we wanted to be in their leagues, we would have fought for that decades ago. We needed our own leagues because we want to promote fair opportunity, equality. So now we finally got to this point. Women's sports are just being elevated now. You see women pickleball players signing $1 million deals, Nike sponsoring women, and now you want to tell me that this person who identifies as a woman because they said so one morning is going to take my scholarship, my trophy, my opportunity. And also people really downplay the effort it takes to become a professional athlete.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a life devotion. It's a dedication. For
Yeah.
a man to come take that away from you is disgraceful.
Well, just
Yeah,
look at
so-
what Biden did. He gave the woman, what was it, the award to Woman of the Year. To
Leah
a
Thomas?
trans-
Yeah, that's just
That
so
was ESPN.
horribly wrong.
on Women's
And
Day.
by the way, it completely also rubs me the wrong way when you have the head of the NCAA, I believe, Charlie Baker, who's the former governor of Massachusetts. He said, oh, but there are so few, transgender women? I always get confused. There's so few trans women. Don't even worry about it because not that many girls and women will be impacted. From my point of view, any woman who loses out to a man, that is one too many.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
How come you never see women going into men's sports? If
Exactly,
it's all
that's
fair.
why
If we're all
we-
saying
That
why
argument
do
is
that?
so important
It's a
because it's
country run by
only
men.
about 1 to 2% of people who even for this they even believe this issue. This is a 90% issue in this country.
Yeah.
So this is another one of those great examples we were talking about before. You almost want to just let the left hang themselves with this.
It was
rope
a fad.
because
Trump already killed that.
It
was a fad.
It really is.
It was
but
crazy.
here's where it is dangerous, is where we do have a doctor going before a Senate committee on national television being asked 12 times, can men give birth, and not being able to answer
Not
the
only
question.
that doctor, though,
embarrassing.
Ketanji Brown Jackson, who
She's
is
a disgrace.
Associate
True.
Supreme Court
Yeah.
Justice, was unable to answer what is a woman.
Who appointed her? Was it Obama?
Biden.
Biden.
But did
By
you
the way,
see
hold
the
on,
best
hold on,
part?
hold on. And she was the ultimate DEI hire. And this is not me using a derogatory term. It was Biden himself
DEI is a
promising.
derogatory term, by the way.
Biden.
And it should be.
Biden promising James Clyburn, who's a congressman from South Carolina, that in return for his support, Biden was going to lose the primary. In return for his support, he would appoint a black woman to the Supreme Court. What a terrible promise to make. Anyone appointed to the highest court of the land should have the credentials, the qualifications, not the skin color. You know?
Can I tell you, Lindy, DEI is an insult, and I'll tell you why. When you know that someone's a DEI hire, you're saying if you were not this skin color, you're not worthy of being here with us.
Right.
That's insulting, because what if they were? You know, when you're hiring only based on ethnicity, gender, race,
But
you're
it's not
saying
that
that
you're
your
only
merit doesn't even
hired
matter.
on that. It's not that you're, because obviously you have to meet a certain qualification.
Well, clearly,
you're not going to be
Ketanji
a
does
pilot
not.
if you can't fly
She
a
can't
plane,
define
you know?
what a woman or a man is. There's no merit in
back
that.
back to the point that you just made, that trade-off of I'll hire you to do this. If that's every government, left and right, because they're loyalists. And this is why I'm against the loyalist programming.
No,
because
that's
you're
not
just
every
having-
government. That's the Democrats in particular who are bartering on race.
and
Bartering on race in particular.
Us also,
And using
conservatives,
people.
we have
Democrats,
loyalists.
Democrats are.
We have loyalists also with Trump.
Trump is not bartering on race. He's not
No, but there's other things
I'm
that
talking
he's-
about race.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm
but-
talking about DI. I'm
Yeah.
talking about the subject we're talking about right now, which is
Yeah,
race and
right.
gender and DI. I think all of that is so wrong. And frankly, another thing, a misconception that a lot of people have, I have to correct this misconception. They think that East Asians are somehow grouped into this DEI thing. No, I don't think so. Actually, East Asian women are some of the highest performing academically and professionally.
And the most discriminated
that is,
against.
exactly, that is why it was the Asians who sued Harvard University, not any other demographic. It was the Asians who sued Harvard and won, and this is why we no longer have affirmative action. But I do want to go back to the actual topic, which is transgenderism. I think it's very curious that Democrats have decided that this is the hill they want to die on, when it's precisely because of Trump's very effective, lethally effective anti-trans ad that was playing all around the Rust Belt in 2024. That's a huge reason why he won, because Kamala Harris was dumb enough not to respond. Do you
so
remember?
disrespectful
Do you
to
remember
women.
that slogan? He said, "Kamala is for they, them. I'm for you."
I love
Yeah.
that. Oh my God, that's
That's such a good
brilliant.
one.
I don't remember
and
that.
it was very accurate, too.
But can I tell you something? I thought it was a minority issue, and it is. To be honest, if we stop giving it oxygen, it'll die out. But I was on the way to a boxing fight. I work in boxing. I predominantly work with men because they're stronger, and people like to watch them fight, not women. But there was, remember Iman Khalif, the Olympic Algerian boxer?
Turned
that
out to be a man, right?
Yeah, and like broke his opponent, like almost
I didn't
killed
know
the
about that.
opponent.
Turned out to be like-
So Iman Khalif is an Algerian. Allegedly, she's a woman, but they're saying that she's a man. And her opponent said, "I've never got hit so hard in my life by any woman," and she was one of the best in the world. Turns out Iman Khalif had more testosterone than estrogen, and it turns out she or he was a man.
Was it because of
or had a
drugs or
No,
transgen-
just she
okay.
was born with something that she has more testosterone.
Okay.
Long story short, I'm in the car on the way to a fight, and I'm like, guys, you think I'll get in trouble if I tweet out against this? It's so wrong. I'm just going to do it. My coworker goes, I won't name him because he's actually a good guy, but he goes, yeah, right, it's so wrong. Let's both tweet about it. And I'm like, yeah. I tweet, Iman Khalif is a disgrace that they allowed her to participate. And he tweeted, I can't believe we're bullying this woman. And I'm like, wait, you think that he should get in a ring with a female? You cover boxing for a living. You know that, look at this. I broke my whole chin from like a 20-kilogram weight, and like imagine what you have to deal with a punch from a man.
Absolutely.
You believe that they deserve to have their jaws broken? First of all, that's a brain trauma injury because this man says, no, I feel like a woman and you can't hurt my feelings, so you need to respect my feelings. Someone's gonna die because of that.
Yeah.
Skulls have been fractured in combat sports because of transgender.
I think there's another point that I want to bring up, and I'd love to get your views on this. It's a matter of states' rights, which is a deeply conservative point of view. Do you remember a couple of years ago, people were raising how liberals are saying, oh my God, the Supreme Court overturned abortion. We're not going to be able to access abortion anyway.
Lie.
Yes.
Turns out to be a complete lie. They can
Everything's
easily
lie.
go across the border or do whatever they need to get abortion. In fact, there are more abortions than ever, even after the Supreme Court decision. And let me remind you guys, 27 states have now banned biological men from participating in women's sports. That means these are states deciding. It would be totally unfair for the Supreme
embarrassingly
Court.
low
It would
number.
be totally unfair for the Supreme Court to overturn that
agree.
decision on the states' part. You understand? Like, it's up to the states. Leave it to the states. What do you think?
Yeah, I think leave it to the states. I
Yeah.
feel that way about most everything. I mean, there's very few things that are constitutional. People always forget this. Conservatives forget this all the time. There are very few things that the federal government is actually supposed to handle. Very few.
Yeah.
The U.S. government
We
should
have the
not be in
10th.
education.
What does the 10th Amendment say? The 10th Amendment says that any law not specifically accorded to the president or executive belongs to Congress, which means it belongs to the people, it belongs to the states.
It belongs to the states. And the problem is that even conservatives have totally forfeited that amendment and the way that the founding fathers intended our Constitution to work. And there's a reason. They weren't just forgetting something. I think it's funny how conservatives so often will go ahead and make their points, but government needs to protect, like we're looking at it right now with the budget, like all the spending. I don't mean to go off topic, but I'm just saying, like, that is not, because how can you be a conservative and be talking about whatever happened to Doge and all the rest of the things? But always go back to the fundamentals that you're talking about, the history, the Constitution, the things that, when you go back to the fundamentals, these arguments are so cut and dried, but the Democrats never want to talk about that. And a lot of conservatives don't either.
I think Emily actually brought up an intriguing point a couple of minutes ago. You said that you think this is a fad.
Yeah.
I wish you were right. I wish you were right, but I've been on the Democratic side, and I'm telling you now, they see it.
Transgenders in sports?
Let me just say, they see it as a civil rights issue. I've heard them say time and time again, this is the latest frontier of the civil rights movement. I've heard them say it. Actually, in the final top donor dinner for the Harris campaign, I was there. Unfortunately, I left early. The keynote speaker was none other than Sarah McBride, who used to be Tim McBride months before. So this is not going away, folks. I wish it were a fad. Yes, there are fewer people transitioning, but Democrats have embraced this as their newest, 1960s Martin Luther King Jr. moment.
It's so
But see, I don't think it'll stick for a critically
That's what
thinking,
I think.
smart electorate. I don't think it'll stick. I mean, you came around. There are other people
I
that
think
have
that
come
we'll
around.
always
This is
advocate
not-
for it, but I don't think that it's going to be set and true, that it's going to be permissible.
I also think the more we talk about it, I
But
feel
where
like it
they're
just
where they're
amplifies the
hard
actual problem.
going in still on this issue are in the American schools. That's why more families than ever are homeschooling. Fewer people have any sort of trust in our education system. Linda McMahon, change it. That was never the role of government, but it is the schools where this hogwash is actually
Dr. Loudon,
taught.
it is the schools, but there's something even more poisonous going on. It's the Netflixes of the world. It's the HBO Maxes.
True.
I don't want to see another woke insertion on my favorite TV show. They just did it again to Stranger Things.
We were just talking about it. We were just
My
talking about
goodness,
it's
can
scary
I
to have
please?
kids.
Can
It's
I please
scary.
just watch a TV
I
show?
haven't seen Stranger
Wait,
Things.
guys,
but
I just
the whole thing.
like
So what-
this is what I want for Christmas. I just want to watch a single TV show without some random transgenderism, LGBTQI plus individual thrown in my face.
Wait,
It's
Janel
always in
didn't
the
watch
last
it. Can I
season.
reenact it for you? Okay. The world is ending. Picture the world's ending. Okay?
Okay.
Guys, everyone's congregating. I need to tell you something.
Oh yeah.
I'm not like you guys. I mean, in every way I am, right? Like, we have fun and we play games together and we hang out, but I don't like girls.
So
And then
he's
everyone's like,
gay.
what?
Okay.
And then he's like, by the way, the whole world is ending.
At the very
And then
end.
this was 7 minutes long. The meme is that it took Trump 6 minutes to kidnap Maduro, but Will coming out gay on Stranger Things took 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Like, you can't make
yeah,
this
I
up.
see what it is now.
It's not just Stranger Things.
Well,
it's
who
everything.
is leading the programming of Hollywood?
It's Hollywood.
Yeah,
You know, all
who's
these
leading
people.
the
It's
program?
leftists.
Who
Who owns
Hollywood.
By the way, when
Yeah.
sports
It's
and Netflix,
so-
I was just about to sign with Netflix, and my agent was like, I don't know if you want to see who just got tapped into Netflix head of sports, and it's a very woke DEI hire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, there goes my Netflix contract. But
yeah, and also,
I was like devastated. when she
Not
got
only
hired.
is it just the cultural aspect, it's also just basic human life. I don't want men in my bathroom or locker room.
That's another point no one's
intrusive.
talking about. It's
Why?
traumatizing.
And also, if you take it to the logical conclusion, what is to stop all male women's teams from happening? It could possibly happen one day if we don't stop this train wreck.
I don't
Do you
think it's ever
understand?
going to happen. I think it's
But that
too
is a
outrageous.
logical conclusion. If
People
we
are gonna
don't put up
die.
a fight, we gotta put up a fight.
We are.
And I'm glad that President Trump is. You know.
Imagine we were in the NFL. Imagine we got bodied. First of all, that would have to be run on DEI because none of us would make the team if we tried out. So now you're bringing back DEI 10 times stronger because no female auditioning for a male sport is ever going to make it. But all of the transgender men who identify as women are going to start taking
I also
all the
think it's
women's
very
sports.
curious that the lawyer arguing on behalf of the transgender individuals, he couldn't
ACLU.
define what a woman was.
None of them
Again,
can. That's the
none of
problem.
them
But they
can.
agreed that there's a gender bias,
And by the
but
way,
what's gender?
Yeah, there's-
Democrats will come for your throat if you say that you're a woman and not a birthing individual.
Yes, there's
I'm a woman.
Man, there's a man that brought his daughter. He went up to speak in court, and he brought up his daughter. She was like 7 years old, and he was talking to the politicians and the people in court, and he said, you know, if you guys are so pro having men into, you know, in women's bathrooms, I don't want my daughter, she said, to go in there alone, and a
don't
man is
care.
standing next to her. Why don't you have your husband, or why don't you have your daughter go into a man's bathroom? Why don't
Wait,
you
can I
guys
show
flip
evidence
around?
for the Supreme
You know,
Court?
And he was basically put it on the politicians, like, you wouldn't like if your wife was going in there and there's a man just pissing right next to her, you know,
No.
or your 7-year-old daughter.
Wait,
And they all
Janel.
stayed quiet.
They all
Nobody
get
said
quiet, yeah.
Nobody said anything. They just
and-
looked at him.
But I need to show this, Lindy. I want to show this to the Supreme Court because this is what a 2-year-old said.
Boys have a penis, girls have vagina.
That's it. Somebody needs to show that to the Supreme Court because the fact that a child could say that,
Yeah.
but they can't even identify the
Also-
difference is a joke.
Yeah.
But
Also,
also the reason, I think it's really important to point out that the reason why they want this issue, the reason why they stay on this issue is because it's very important to their communist socialist agenda. They have to take God out of everything. And until you take away God's most basic plan, man and woman, right, you cause all of this confusion.
But this is where I bring up again Peter Thiel. He does not believe in God. So you have people that are running these corporations. He believes in.
Can you think of one other individual like Peter Thiel with
there's-
his stature?
I-
Give
I'm-
me one other Peter Thiel-like figure.
Jarvin.
Who's Jarvin?
I'm going to tell you right now. He's
Okay, while you're doing that, I do want to play. Hold on, guys.
Curtis Jarvin.
Hold on, guys. So before we proceed, I do want to show evidence that this isn't just a fad. Like, we wish this could be going away, but Democrats, their base, the essence of the Democratic Party, the cynosure of progressivism, they are not letting go of this issue. Some of them are just deeply misguided. Some of them are brainwashed. Some of them, they believe, the woke is their God. You know, religion has receded from the public forefront. And in fact, this is, I think, in recent years, none has become the dominant religion of America. I don't mean N-U-N, I mean N-O-N-E. Pew Research Foundation has surveyed America, and for the first time in our history, people have picked none as their majority religion. Do you understand? Most people believe in quote unquote nothing. So what takes
That's
its
my
place?
generation.
It's politics. So let's play this video. This is a quintessential example of what liberals believe.
Why are you splitting up sports? Like, I'm pretty sure a woman can play basketball as well as a man if she practices and keep.
why don't they?
What's the issue?
In case you guys
Insane.
didn't hear what she said, she says, I'm pretty sure a woman could play basketball
Just
as
as good
well
as
as man if she practiced. No,
Statistically inaccurate.
absolutely
Okay,
not.
so let's put the WNBA in the NBA and let's see them perform fair and square, and
Right.
let's see who goes to the finals. Let's try it.
Walk it
I
through with
honestly
them.
think
that's
I
bad.
wanna-
That's what they've been trying to do.
I want to take this back.
We're stopping them.
There's even a more deeper issue here. This is like the worst nightmare manifestation of feminism, thinking that men and women are identical. We're not. We have strengths and weaknesses in different ways, and we should embrace them.
I do
You know,
embrace
for
the
example,
differences.
women,
Yes,
we
absolutely.
are so much. It's not just emotionally. I think
We're
we're
so much more
fabulous.
maternal.
We're so much more maternal. We also just mature much faster. We perform at much higher levels up until the collegiate
We could
level.
create humans
but
in our
we are
body
not
and
men.
And we shoot guns better than men at first. Way better. Like our ability to shoot accurately from the get-go, just naturally, we're better at it. It's just, that's one interesting place where we are better. And that's a sport.
From my perspective, I really do think that women, that's just my personal opinion, women are smarter, but that's my opinion.
What I mean is, there's been a lot of studies that show that we are.
Yeah, well,
I want to be a man in my next life.
What I mean is,
get a lot of
competition. It's never about a competition. It's about a complementary.
Exactly, that's what I mean.
That's what it is.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Feminism right now has been so toxic, and I actually think that liberal women, there are some studies that show that liberal women are the most mentally disordered of any demographic.
I think liberal women,
you can see it.
They act
you
like
can
it.
see it. You know what you said, though, about this being the civil rights issue on the left? You were talking about how when you were part of the Democrat Party, you heard this over and over again. Here's why that's the biggest lie ever. Because if you really care about transgender people, you would understand that their suicide rates, their self-harm rates, their depression rates, their murder rates, we've seen that over and over again, right?
Murder, suicide.
Are so much higher. Suicide rates are actually exponentially higher.
Yeah.
I have the statistics in my head, but I don't want to say it wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But it's not just like 1 or 2 times higher. It's literally like
No, you're absolutely
10
right.
times higher for transgender people. If you care about transgender people, why on earth would you want them to kill themselves?
Why did we close mental institutions or like defund
Because
them?
people were saying it was being humane, but you actually bring up a good point because we basically shut them down and they went on the streets. That's why we have such
that's our homeless population.
Exactly.
And now they don't have food, and now they are all drug addicted,
And they're a risk to not
now they're not
same
taking
people.
care
Now
of. They
it's a risk in
freeze
our
to death.
communities.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's deeply unfortunate that Democrats are basing the definition of women on identity and vibes, basically, rather than
Vibes.
actually
That was Kamala's whole
biology.
campaign.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's just
good vibes.
deeply unfortunate.
There's never,
And-
ever scientific fact to back up any of the stuff they say while they claim to believe science.
Yeah, we got to move on to the next topic, but I just want to say one last thing about Leah Thomas. Janelle, I think you brought her up.
I brought
You brought her up. Sorry, Emily. I think it's you know, she's being heralded as a hero. Blair White, who came on our show
I didn't know
last
Blair was
year,
transgender, by the way.
she's transgender. She said that some people are actually transitioning for clicks because you get so much
gosh.
attention.
Parents are
Wait,
transitioning their
hold on.
children for
Hold on.
clicks.
You
It's
get,
criminal.
hold on, let me finish. You get so much admiration and attention that you otherwise would not get. I think it's a deeply misincentive. It's just so destructive. And
Only
also
London
speaks to
said
the
the same
dangers of social media.
Well, this is why it's a virus. Obviously, the mind is your program. So, you know, the left's program is pretty dangerous because now you have all these people convinced that that is the way to go. This is why they have so much depression, because now they have a sickness in them.
Well, it's
Yeah,
also,
They know
it's also
it's unnatural.
It's also Big Pharma. Big Pharma makes millions of dollars off of every
Also.
single person they can get to transition.
Yes.
And so
Oh
all the
my
hormones,
goodness, such a good point, because
Yes.
those are lifelong patients now.
those are lifelong patients, but also all those hormones and all those chemicals mess with them mentally.
But now,
and that's a
and now I
proven
want to
fact.
give the big picture again because I love doing this. Conservatives and liberals are both working on that together. I want you guys to
Big Pharma?
understand. I want you to understand this also.
Oh, no, I understand it. Trust me.
In the public, they want to be against it, but the ones that are the major leaders of the corporations that are the left and the right, they all are on board with, no, we have to continue with this because look at all the money that we're
big
profiting
pharma
from.
money.
Yes, of course.
Big
so
money. It's big hospitals.
I mean, you want to go down that
Absolutely.
rabbit hole, throw cancer in the mix,
Absolutely.
too. I don't believe
Cancer, all
cancer
of
doesn't
it,
have a
all
cure
of it.
for 1
Well, there's
minute.
already been a
Either.
cure. There's already been a cure for many, many years ago. But anyways, that's besides the point. So even if you're a liberal or a conservative, they're all profiting from
Well,
it.
I do want to say that Big Pharma, having worked for the chief financial officer of Merck, Big Pharma primarily gives to Democrats. For example, Bernie Sanders is one of the biggest recipients of pharmaceutical spending. So and it is a very bipartisan issue, but it leans more towards
I think
Democrats.
RFK
but they
Jr.
are-
is
they're
trying
all-
to-
A lot of the
also,
C-suite, though, in Big
this is
Pharma
a
are
fantastic-
Republicans.
What'd you
So
say?
it's a lot of the C-suite in Big Pharma are
I
Republicans.
am actually
Exactly,
glad.
they are.
I know
That's
you're a
right. And
Republican.
I am from
be
healthcare.
fair.
Dr. Loudon,
I came from healthcare.
You are a Republican, and the fact that you're able to call that out, I applaud you tremendously because that takes guts. So thank you very much.
Well, I'm a Republican and I'm calling it out.
Yeah.
I mean, like anybody can,
this is
you know,
a-
it's just right there in your face.
This
you can
is
see
a
it.
fantastic time and great opportunity to segue to our next
Yes.
topic, which
Perfect.
is there have been a number of changes at the CDC under JFK Jr.'s watch.
RFK Jr.
Did I say JFK? I'm so sorry. RFK
She just misses JFK, guys.
I
It's
actually
okay.
do.
It's a natural
Wait, no,
mistake. We all
JFK
miss him.
Jr. Let's be very fair.
channeling
This is something that I think we can all agree on.
was
JFK
very
Jr. was so
attractive.
attractive.
Yes.
Yeah.
So attractive. Okay, but we could do a whole episode about their attractiveness.
It was beautiful.
Can we rank
This
politicians?
this is a deeply heterosexual panel, I think. But anyway,
That would be a fun
so
segment, ranking politicians.
can we actually do that?
Okay,
Like, rate?
we should.
That was a
Great,
good
because-
one, actually.
We'll do it next.
Yeah.
women.
So you guys got to come back for the rate a guy section.
Yes, yes. Let's do it.
Okay, rate a poll. So there are 3 areas that we're going to touch on today. The new childhood vaccination program. I actually support that, even though I'm not anti-vax.
Me
Sorry,
too,
I
me
know I'm
too.
going to get.
I'm not
somebody-
anti-vax either. I'm not
I'm
So anti-vax.
and also number 2, the new food pyramid, and then raw milk versus whole milk. Okay, let's
Oh,
talk
yes, I love
about
that.
the food pyramid. Basically, Bobby Jr. has inverted the traditional food pyramid and has driven people completely crazy. The primary change is that he is elevating the importance of meat and demoting actually highlighting the destructiveness of processed foods, which is so important because a lot of much of the obesity epidemic right now in our day and age is driven by the consumption of processed foods, which is so much cheaper.
I agree.
$80 million a year we spend on just food data, food research, right? 189 billion we spent just on 2023 alone on the USDA food and nutrition. This is what we got. This is exactly like education. When the Department of Education was formed, we were #1 in the world. Now, after all the billions we've spent on education
Worse
and the
than
Department
ever,
of Education, we are literally at the bottom. Same thing with food. This is not the role of government, first of all. They certainly shouldn't be. Oh, I got in the biggest fight with ChatGPT on the way here. Literally, I'm screaming and cussing at it. And my producer was saying, you know, you can actually cuss on this show. You can say all that on the show. I'm like,
Well,
yeah, I won't be
actually,
doing that. But I was so mad because ChatGPT is so programmed to lie about raw milk and about food and about big food and all the money that's made and all the payback to the politicians and all the rest of it. But all that money spent, and we have now the highest obesity anywhere in the civilized world, in the developed world. We have the highest rates of type 2 diabetes.
Yes.
We have the highest rates of cancer, which is a
Autism.
food-driven, autism, all the rest of it. That's what we accomplish when government gets involved. It goes back, Lindy, to what I was saying about, go back to the basics. What is our government supposed to do? This isn't what they're supposed to do.
I completely agree with that, and I want to tie it back to something we discussed in a couple episodes ago. It's SNAP. You know, if you are on SNAP, you are much likelier to be obese and overweight and unhealthy than if you weren't on SNAP.
It's what they can afford.
Exactly, and I love the fact that President Trump has reformed the program and that you can no longer use it to buy soda and junk food. It's just a no-brainer. Why wouldn't we do that? Why didn't we do that decades ago?
I'm disappointed America has such a low standard for health, and food is like just the tip of the iceberg. I could tell you, I mean, all of us are wearing lipstick right now, right? We're all wearing skincare right now. When I got my skincare company, I remember our website said, certified EU health. And I'm like, no, we need to make it certified US health because I'm a patriot. And they were like, girl, the US has no health standards.
Yes.
So what I found out is that the EU banned 13,000 chemicals in skincare and makeup that the US allowed. This is not 10 years ago. This is last year when I did this investigation.
Well, it's a full circle moment to what we're just discussing.
Exactly. It
prior.
goes back to food. What you put in your mouth, it's what you put
But we
on
need to
your
move to a
skin.
different model, which is people, planet, profit.
We're not going to. I love that
people there,
idea, but let me just tell you, with
world is
citizens
greedy.
in 2011.
No, but it can be-
In 2011, the Supreme Court came down with a decision called Citizens United, which unleashed the power of dark money all across the country, all across the land. Ever since that moment, our system has been completely awash with dark money. We have no hope unless that's overturned. So we can talk all day about wanting it.
I
But
know.
like, I love
Control
that.
what we put in our mouth.
Yes,
That
yes.
was like
speaking
Gina's
of which,
point.
I think you and I are aligned on this. We are not anti-vax, but we're anti-hesitant. We're not anti-vax, but we're vaccine hesitant, maybe a little bit. At least I am.
Yes.
Because what RFK Jr. I actually support, which is to bring down the number of required vaccinations from 17 to 11. And if you want the vaccine, you can still get it, but you have to engage in a consultation with your doctor, which should be a given that you want to do anyway. Why is it a bad thing to have a conversation with your doctor? But all of a sudden, the liberals are out with their pitchforks saying, "Oh my God, RFK Jr. wants their children to die."
What
No.
happened to my body, my choice? Isn't that what they were pitchforking a couple of years ago? Because I could tell you it's very demeaning when I went to the doctor at college age and I had to get hepatitis B to go to college, or when I got thrown out of college for not getting the COVID vaccine. Because I said, what happened to my body, my choice? Or is that selective when it benefits your agenda? Here's my common
it is.
sense
Yeah,
argument.
abortion.
Yeah.
No, my question is, if you're vaxxed, right, you're protected. Survival of the fittest. Let me die if I'm not
Well,
vaxxed.
I mean, let me just
That's
bring,
my argument.
Well, Emily, the science
I know where you're
hold
gonna
on,
go.
the
I know
science
where
is
you're
wrong
going.
on that, though, because according to herd immunity, it has to be about at least 80 to 90% of the population. So if you don't get vaxxed, you are actually a detriment to the public health. I'm just presenting an alternative
And I know that's
argument.
exactly what you're
Yeah,
gonna say, which is
I
true,
do
yeah.
want to say, I have a Joe Rogan clip, which goes to your point about my body, my choice. She's a funny woman. I like this girl.
You know, we don't believe in gender, but we need a female president. You're like, huh?
That's a good point.
And then it's like, my body, my choice. Unless it's a baby that needs a vaccine for hepatitis
God.
B, which comes from butt
just listen.
sex. Like, what do you, right?
And sharing needles.
And sharing needles. And then, you know, we believe in climate change and sea is rising, but we live on the coast. Like, would you buy a
Who
house
is
on the
this?
beach if you
Whitney
truly
Cummings.
believe
Amazing.
that the seas are, you know, we believe in recycling, but why can't you give Andrew Yang another
Okay,
shot?
I
Like,
agree
why
with
won't
all
you
these
give-
points except the
where did
Andrew
Beto
Yang
go?
point.
Great
It just doesn't make any sense. Why does a baby who was just born 24 hours ago need a vaccine for
Butt sex.
venereal disease?
No, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't
at
make
all.
any sense at
No.
all. And
Well,
having
it's
been
the
on,
same thing we were talking about.
and
It's the corporatism. It's the American
Yeah,
Medical
exactly.
Association and the money
You
they're going to
better
make from
believe
it. And
that's
it's big pharma
exactly.
and it's big vax.
you better believe that all the lobbyists, from the Mercks and the Bristol Myers Squibb and the Pfizers and the Johnson & Johnson, they've been knocking on these congressmen's doors for the past decade saying, I want my vaccine on the schedule.
Yes.
Because that's so much money.
Yes, and they're all profiting from it, both sides, liberals and conservatives. There, no doubt about it. Everybody is in there, and they all have their hand in that play. It's
and-
billions and billions and billions of dollars.
And I want to get this in because it's so important to me. I've just had two younger dogs die of cancer.
Oh,
no. The vaccines that they've done the exact same thing now to veterinary medicine. And I know some people maybe don't care about animals, but this is such a big one on my heart because they've done the exact same thing.
so
Now you've got
sorry.
big veterinary. Thank you.
Yes.
Now you've got big veterinary. You've got big pharma that has taken over and bought up all of the small. Good luck if you want to find
By the way,
a mom
Gina,
and pop
my vet
veterinarian
just
anymore.
tried to. First of all, my vet wants me to, what do you call it, to like castrate my dog, basically, and I said no. And then they tried to get me to give him 12 vaccines at 3 years old, and I
That's
said,
insane.
which one is legal that I will go to jail if I don't give my dog this vaccine? Only rabies. So I gave him rabies, and the other
But even
12 that they
rabies, you can
recommended.
get titers later. You don't even have to have a yearly rabies. You shouldn't have to.
I
It's
get every
mandated
3
by some
years.
municipalities, so you'd have to be breaking
But I
the law.
want to give
you know,
context why I'm so anti-vax, because I don't want to look like an extremist. And everyone's reality is what their experiences were.
Of course, yeah.
Before I went into journalism, which is all an accident, by the way, my goal was to be a doctor for kids with special needs. I literally went pre-med in college. And every family, I try not to pry because a lot of them suffer because of their kids with special needs. And all of the mothers that I worked with told me the same thing.
Yeah.
They birthed a healthy child, and an expired vaccine or a vaccine with too much metal or mercury, why are these even in vaccines?
Yeah.
Made their child either cerebral palsy, autism, deaf and blind, mute, deaf. How does this happen?
We need more.
Yeah, so
sickness.
I
We need
know
more
that
sick.
I know that what I'm about to
Sad.
say is going to be deeply unpopular with our viewership base, but I have allegiance to the truth. And the measles vaccine, let me just give you one example. It has been proven to be highly effective. In fact, there have been a number of measles outbreaks in the United States because RFK Jr. has been castigating the effectiveness of the measles vaccines. I can adopt a commonsensical view
Yes.
on vaccines.
But-
I can,
but does-
wait,
Me
let
too.
me please
Me
finish.
too.
I can say that the 17 vaccines was way too much, and we need to completely reform it and look at it on a case-by-case basis to see which ones babies who are just born actually need. I can also say that vaccines for polio and measles have been proven effective for nearly 100 years, and children should get it.
Well, then you might be interested to know this, because a lot of Americans don't know this. My husband was actually the first one to commission a thimerosal study. This is going back like 15 years ago when he was in the Senate in Missouri. And one thing that we learned, we did this in the first place because there were all of these moms and dads coming through my husband's office every single day. And the last thing you want to be is anti-vax. Like, that's the worst label you can get. You sound crazy, right? And so that was the last thing I wanted to believe, but I watched them come through. All the things you're saying were true. But here's what most Americans don't know. All decisions regarding mandated vaccines are decided by the unelected local health commissioner. Do you understand that? Unelected. He's appointed. He or she is appointed. The unelected local commissioner decides
Isn't it
what vaccines.
decided by the CDC?
They make a recommendation. and then the local commissioner. So what's really interesting about that is how corruptible an unelected local health commissioner is, right?
By the way, it's the $400 million of lobbying nobody talks about. $400 million. They don't talk about it.
It's way more than that.
More. That's
It's
what's
way more
That's
than
like
that.
that because
Back
I
to
believe
dark
that
money.
it's the CDC that determines which vaccinations
That's what
are required.
They make the recommendations.
They make their there's a separate committee actually that's not the CDC, and it's a committee within the CDC that Bobby Kennedy appointed his own people to. The committee makes the suggestion. The CDC can decide whether or not to adopt.
They solidify.
One great reform would be to isolate the actual inoculation, right? Isolate that tetanus shot, isolate that measles shot. Why do you need the thimerosal? Why does it need to be an mRNA vaccine? Why they're turning them all now into DNA vaccines? Why? Why are they doing that? See, this is what you really have to look at. I hear you on the mass vaccination and the whole purpose of that. And nobody wants our society to suddenly have polio again, right? Nobody wants that. But the thing is, they have added in all of these horrible things, mercury, thimerosal, all the different things, to where now these aren't
there's
vaccines.
distrust.
And just one more thing, more thing. Test for titers. Make that your campaign. Say, you know what, why should I revaccinate my child every single year, or every time they stub their toe, they have to go in, right, and get a tetanus shot again? No, they don't. Test their titers.
I do believe that the way that Democrats conducted themselves during the pandemic was deeply reprehensible, and Fauci in particular. He is responsible for completely desecrating the public's trust and perception of the CDC.
However, he's shown the light on it.
And I agree with you on this point. I still believe in certain vaccines because they work.
absolutely.
Scientists
If they take out the poison,
work.
I agree. But until I have a risk of having children with autism over a vaccine that might prevent measles,
it doesn't sound like
the same way tampons.
Everybody should
Why?
vaccines, then fight for the purification of the vaccines. Fight for the titer testing. Fight to get all of the additives taken out. Fight to.
It's like you don't have polio, but your child has cerebral palsy.
But then and who is the leader? Who leads in this venture for vaccines?
What do you mean? Who leads? We do.
Right. No. But the corporations, as far as at a cellular level, right. And what those vaccines, their purpose is to knock off certain cells on a cellular level that leads to human evolution in some way biologically.
That's
so
crazy,
when we want to advocate for transparency and show us this and show us that, we're basically asking them to say, hey, show me what's going to evolve my biology.
Also, I feel like we're
let me do that right now. Let me give you
They're
this
never going to make
Also,
healthy.
I just. There's something
expensive.
that's deeper, and we are fast approaching our next topic, but I just want to say that 24 million Americans have lost health care in the past week because of the expiration of the Obamacare subsidies. I really wish that we would have done something for them, because these are, and let me just be clear, this isn't even a political issue, because 20 out of the 24 states that are most impacted by it are Republican states. So, Obamacare was a complete dumpster fire, complete garbage system that needs to be reformed. But that doesn't mean that, exactly, I completely agree with you, but that doesn't mean we just abandon it. He said the health savings accounts, but that's only for emergencies.
No, that's not true.
I don't think that's what
that's not true.
His proposal.
No, he
the health
service
savings accounts, a primary purpose of that is for emergencies.
No, I mean, it does have, the big trauma issue is like the big thing, so everybody knows that. But no, the health savings accounts, you can use those for anything. You can use those to go to the doctor. You can use those to go to the emergency room. You can use those for literally everything.
But it's like $5,000, right? What happens if you exceed that?
No, because when you go to the crisis care.
Social.
What happens if someone has cancer and the bills spiral out of control?
Here we go back again to the primary function of government, which is not health care. Who used to take care of health care?
I completely agree with you. I believe that it should be.
It was charities, it was churches, it was families. And
I actually think it should go back to the private market.
Should go back to the private market. You're exactly right.
You and I are on the
same
page. I'm just trying to get into the nuance of the HSAs. I'm just not convinced that that's the solution. I think it should be left to the. I actually believe in the Adam Smith principle of letting the market take care of it. I think one of the most egregious mistakes of Obamacare is forcing everyone onto the same pool of people. So what do you think is going to happen with people with pre-existing conditions being thrown into the healthy pool?
Well, and
Trump said send them a check, no need for subsidies. Congress has to get out of the way of private
what he actually means is the health savings accounts.
And once again, Lindy, this comes back to the corporatization anti-Semitism. This comes back to the corruption that you keep talking about. This is Republicans did not push to repeal this. Where did Doge go? Doge, can we please have Doge back in the room? And this comes back to this should have been repealed. We should have talked about free market solutions. We should have had these conversations, but we're not having these conversations. Why? Because Republicans take massive amounts of money. I mean, obviously Democrats do. They're bought and paid for. But Republicans take too much money.
Yes, we do.
Too much money. And one other thing you brought up.
APAC tracker.
When I
do big pharma
tracker.
that's what they do.
All the doctors and all the pharmacists that I knew, Republicans. And, you know, when I would have these deep, profound conversations with them, they're my friends, and I'm like, we'll talk about the darkness side of it. They're like, don't try to change anything because we are happy with how it is.
Yes, exactly. And hold on, the original sin wasn't even this year. The original sin was back in 2010 when Obamacare was first passed, because when you give the American people something, it's so difficult to take it away. Yeah. When Social Security was first implemented during the, when Social Security was implemented during the FDR age, people hated it. People said it was the new advent of socialism. Now, if you ever say that you want to take away Social Security, people will burn down your house. Exactly.
Can we talk about big food for just a second? You brought it up. You brought up raw milk, and I think it's so important because this is what I got in the fight with ChatGPT about on the way here.
I'm excited for this.
Well,
yeah, I just turned
it's
around.
Such a big part of this that people don't realize. I was at a MAHA meeting in Washington, D.C. With Bobby, with our amazing secretary, who's doing such a fantastic job, by the way. And they were saying how local farmers are completely forbidden. Now, if you ask ChatGPT this, it will lie to you until you nail it down. You know how you have to do? You have to drill down and be like, don't lie to me, don't tell me that, that's not true. Local farmers cannot bring healthy food into schools. Imagine this for a moment. Imagine how much money they would save, how much healthier our children would be if they could have raw milk that was unprocessed. If they could, they say, oh, well, there's a danger of listeria. Do you know how many people buy raw milk and have for years and eons? Every small community across the country has done this. The benefits to your gut, your microbiome are so much better, on and on. Big ag, big food, big dairy, corporatization of our farms has made it so that the small farmer can't even survive. There's no way they could bring in their leftover food that is healthy. By the way, think about the eggs that are grown. Have you ever looked side by side at an organic egg versus a commercial egg? I mean, it's like the color of the yolk is like almost
I mean,
red.
I'm with you
it's
completely.
It's crazy. And they can't. This is one of the big things that needs to change. No one's talking about what could be done to our school lunches to make our children healthier.
Amen.
Contracts need to be revised.
Ladies, that is like, we could do an entire episode on that.
You're right.
Should, by the way.
We totally should. You're just, it's music to my ears. I completely agree with you. We have one more topic, and it's one of the most important on the international landscape today, and it's the events in Iran and the protests and the fact that the people have been deprived of the internet for weeks now. And we have no idea what's going on in the country. You know, I'm just going to provide brief background. I'd love to get your take on this. I know you guys really have strong opinions on this. And so this regime in Iran is one of the most dangerous and one of the most insidious, in my point of view, in the country's history. And it's not worthy of ruling a country as Iran used to be. From my point of view, I actually diverge from the neoconservatives like Mike Pompeo, Ted Cruz, and Mark Levin, and Ben Shapiro. They want to bomb Iran into smithereens. I actually don't think it's America's responsibility to be the policeman of the world. Absolutely. I think we should do everything up to that point, including very withering economic sanctions. We should undo all the accommodations that the Biden administration mistakenly gave Iran. But I think the active military intervention would be a betrayal of Trump's promise to the America First base. We should be focusing on our country, fixing our issues. God knows our house is out of order.
I agree.
We have protests in Minnesota. We should focus on that. We should make sure that people are not suffering from inflation, which is still at 2.7%, which is higher than the Federal Reserve Board benchmark of 2%. Prices are still going up. We still have illegal aliens in this country. Not enough have been removed. We still have so many crises, crime, murder in this country. Let's fix our country first without, bombing the crap out of other countries. We're ready, enough is enough. We shouldn't be in saber rattling. We already did Venezuela, and President Trump did an outstanding job there, but we shouldn't also invade Mexico, Cuba, Greenland, Colombia. I mean, he's mentioned all these countries. With that said, I do want to say, I want to get your view. I strongly believe that radical Islam is a huge threat to the United States. It truly is.
And I feel like that's not even part of this conversation. That's so small. I have a million different reasons besides combating terrorism why Trump should go to all of these countries. But finish your point.
Yeah, I just think that these people, they want to impose Sharia law. They don't want to assimilate. They want to dismantle the West from within. It's literally in their book. Like it's part of their belief system. It's so intricately intertwined with their worldview. What do you think?
So amazing that you mentioned that they've had a total blackout on their information, because still to this day, 80% of the citizens of Iran do not want that regime, which is amazing when you consider they don't have a free press. So much is hidden from them. I don't know how they get their information, but still 80% agrees with you. In the last 2 years, we spent $9.6 billion militarily assisting Iran. And that is what it has cost. That's the cost to U.S. taxpayers. That doesn't even include, of course, the $22 billion we've sent to Israel for security assistance. So, I mean, at what point, I mean, really, where are we? I think the great question here is the identity crisis between MAGA and America First people here, and that whole question.
I feel like America First isn't America only. And Lindy, I think you're thinking too small. I think you're actually downplaying what America is capable of doing. Do you know the expression, you can feel bad for two people at the same time? Like, you could feel bad that the ICE guy was hit by a car, and you could feel bad that the woman died. I'll finish my point. I'll take it home. I feel Trump could focus on inflation and on lowering the price of healthcare and on the Minnesota protests, and he could kidnap Maduro in 6 minutes, and everybody is hysterical about it.
Yeah, but he's not.
But he's not, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, everyone freaked out over
He's
Venezuela, but I understand. But like, for example, what's happening in Minnesota,
Well, Venezuela was
Donald Trump
pre-negotiated.
himself
Yeah.
can't really do much about what's happening in Minnesota, to the point that he's like, you know what, let me wait till this issue is resolved before I focus on foreign diplomacy. I think the reason you have a cabinet and you like kind of divide and conquer is for this exact reason. I don't think President Trump should spend every second of his day focusing on Iran, and he's definitely not doing that. I actually think, like, I'm waiting for something to happen in Iran, and I'm like, oh my God, Trump's announcing the end of Obamacare, and Trump is doing this and that. But at the same time, it's like, it is in our best interest if this regime falls.
It is in our best interest, but it's not. That's not our responsibility.
But if we can do it,
guys, it's not our responsibility. Let me tell you why it's not our responsibility. We are $40 trillion in debt.
Yes.
Okay, and you know why? A huge portion of that is because we wasted that money in the Middle East on these stupid forever wars, these foreign entanglements that we had no business doing.
Thank you.
We were entangled. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh my God, I love you, girl.
Thank you.
And we were in Afghanistan and Iraq
Easy.
for 20
It's easy.
years.
Easy.
And what did we get for it? A botched withdrawal with 13 dead Americans. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
My generation, our generation, we are going to be paying for another forever war in Iran.
Absolutely.
I don't want that.
Well, these are ventures and ambitions of Netanyahu, and he obviously wants us to partner with him so that we can do all his bidding and all of his war.
I am
actually think
done
he's doing
fighting another
America's
country's
bidding.
war.
I don't see it that way at all.
Then fuck
No,
it.
I
done.
find it
It's
problematic that
ridiculous.
Americans would rather cut off their own arm than potentially use their arm in
No,
assisting something that accidentally helps Israel.
Absolutely not.
Yes, the fall of the Iranian regime helps Israel as it does America.
I care about the farmers.
You can care about both, Lindy.
I care
You
about...
cut me off, and then I cut you back off, and you get upset.
I care about the farmers in America who...
Me too.
Can I please finish a sentence?
I'm agreeing with you.
I care about the farmers in America who are suffering so badly right now because of the China tariffs. And so President Trump actually had to go in and rescue them to the tune of $12 billion. I care about them. I care about the 24 million people I just mentioned who are now thrown off health care. Most of them MAGA voters, by the way, a lot of them in the South. I care about them. I care about the children who can't afford education, especially given the increasingly accelerating AI revolution. I'm frankly terrified for them. I don't know how they're going to find a job. How are they going to find a job? We need to give them the opportunity, educate them, equip them with the skills that they can use to thrive in the 21st century economy. Because you better believe that Russia and China, they are equipping their children. They're training their children.
I agree, and if I can finish my point, Trump is thinking in 4D, and we're not giving him enough credit. Everyone told him it's not your job to liberate Venezuela. And guys, I really want to believe Trump cared so much about the Venezuelans.
No,
but I have to tell you, it actually benefited us the most, because when we're going to make billions of dollars off of the oil that came from Venezuela, that's great.
Extracting that oil is one of the big, I think it's one of the most egregious mistakes. That oil should stay in the ground. That oil is so dirty.
But America America already developed this
it's
oil.
very
We
hard.
already
No,
did
It's
that.
very hard. It's very challenging to actually refine that oil. Obviously.
It's probably the worst oil on the face of
and I
the
have
planet.
friends that are owners of oil companies, and they're like, it's not even worthy of us.
Did you hear
to-
what ExxonMobil
And they're
said?
my friends.
Do you remember
Like,
what? Did anyone catch what the CEO of ExxonMobil
They're like,
said?
so basically,
Hold on.
we invaded it for like, yeah, it's great, but at the same time,
Hold on,
it's
guys.
not.
Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys.
We didn't invade.
Did
It took
anyone?
6 minutes.
Did any?
We didn't
It
invade 'cause
actually
it was
took 2 hours,
pre-negotiated.
but hold on. Ladies, did you guys catch what the CEO of ExxonMobil said at the White House the day that Marco Rubio and Trump convened that gathering? Do you remember? He said it's undevelopable. It's not commercial.
absolutely.
We don't
Yeah.
want to be there. This is ExxonMobil, the biggest oil company on the face of the planet. He doesn't want to be there. Trump is begging these oil companies to go in and invest hundreds of billions of dollars, and they won't.
The reason why we did that is because we have to save the petrodollar, okay? Obviously, BRICS is on the rise, and, you know, they're finding different ways to not have to transfer their money through Washington and through our sources, so we're losing value every single day. The issue is that I don't think Trump, and you say he was playing 4D chess, you know, like that's what everybody likes to say about. Sometimes he's not always perfect and he's not always right. This is why I say, like, don't be such a loyalist just because it's Trump. Like, think for yourself and say, hey, sometimes he does this excellent, but then there's other times where it's like, this didn't go according to how it was supposed to go.
I want to commend you so much for this because that takes guts to say.
Yeah, I say
Wait,
it
so
all the time.
what went wrong in Venezuela? What should I have
No,
condemned Trump for
actually,
doing?
I thought
No,
the
not
military option was exquisite, so excellently done.
But you just said it wasn't his problem.
A
No,
dictator
hold on a
me.
second. Let me finish my point. He did a fantastic job. Our military is first in class. We are the most powerful nation on earth. Hell yes. Like America, we are, honestly, I'm probably more jingoistic than most people here. But what I'm saying is we should not be running that country like Trump said we were doing. He said we're running it now. That terrifies me. I don't want to, hold on, I don't want to be nation building. Our country has had an egregious history of nation building. We failed one time after another. And frankly, our only successful example in the past 100 years is Panama. That was
Lindy,
our
if you're
only...
so afraid of radical Islam, you'd be so happy that Trump is trying to take down Khomeini.
Yes,
because
through
they're the number one
economic means, through diplomatic means. We should
They
be
have
doing-
Russia and China.
We should,
They're okay with that.
honestly,
They're okay
we
with our
should-
sanctions. They're
I'm
fine.
happy with giving other countries the armaments they need to go after to deal with their regime. But I don't want to do it myself. I just don't.
Yeah, and then send our military.
Here's where it gets.
And more
here's
of
where it
our.
gets-
No American blood. If Israel wants to fight, they can go.
agree.
No
No
American
American
blood.
No American.
No, I
100%.
don't. I want to keep
We've done that so many times in the past.
we talked about-
It's not advantageous.
Exactly. We
It's
talked
not
about. Hold on.
advantageous.
We just talked
and
about.
it's the bottom line.
Yes.
That's
yes.
what
Hold
I
on.
really,
We
that's
just
what I
talked
really want
about.
to ask
Trump's
Emily,
not
though.
doing that.
I have a question I really want to ask Emily. Here's where I see America First and MAGA getting at odds with each other, and that is on the sustainability issue. When you go in and you pluck out a dictator, can we sustain it? Because it all sounds really good until there's
we've done it
American
before.
bloodshed.
We've done it before.
Exactly.
I
Let
agree
me
with
tell you
that.
what happened.
Historical pattern.
Guys,
I agree.
Guys,
I agree.
hold
Iraq
on.
and Afghanistan were a disaster.
Guys, we went into Iraq thinking that we would liberate them, thinking that they would thank us and cry tears of gratitude.
That's
you
not why
you
we
know
went.
what happened? Let me finish, please. You know what happened? We inadvertently created Al-Qaeda.
Brother, do you believe we went into Iraq to liberate its people?
I gotta finish. It was everything.
That's
is
what
about
they
the oil.
were telling us.
I know, but we know that that's
what
not
they
the
were telling us.
reality.
I gotta be able to finish a point. And then we went into Afghanistan. We did the same thing. We contributed to the creation of ISIS. We are terrible. We are so good at taking people out and murdering people. No one is better at us than assassinating heads of state.
And making everybody believe it's for humanitarian purposes.
Hold on, but hold on. We're done with that. Trump isn't even bothering the democracy.
He said oil.
we all know. At least he's telling the
Before he
truth.
went in, he was saying for drugs.
By the way, it happened to help.
It's a drug issue.
It did help the Venezuelan people, so we have to give him credit where it's due.
No, the
yes,
regime
it
is going
helps
to
all
stay-
the same
it's still the same regime,
so
so
now.
nothing
No,
changed.
wait, do you think it's going to stay the same? It's going
I
to.
think he
It's
said that. I
going
think he
to
said that the bombing of
It's
the
too much
ships
work
was
for us.
for
Why
the
would we
drugs.
care? Why would we
and
care?
actually, I've talked to Border Patrol agents who say that the drugs are way down. So actually, there's something there that was effective. Trump has done some really great things. I think we can all agree at this table it's a sustainability issue. We don't want American bloodshed.
You know,
Agreed, but I don't think he's sending one boot on the
I'm
ground.
actually going to turn that into a double entendre because I agree with the sustainability issue. We are terrible at nation building and should get out of the business.
Terrible.
Period. Stop. It's not even arguable
Stop
at
trying.
this point.
Yeah,
exactly.
stop.
But here's my double entendre. The $17.3 trillion of oil in the ground right now is the dirtiest oil on the face of the planet.
I have faith we can turn it around.
And by the way, it's so bad that ExxonMobil doesn't even want to handle it.
It's true.
Somebody else will.
It's going to take...
Emily, I gotta be able to finish my sentences. If that oil comes out of the ground, it's going to be so bad for our public health. It'll lead to environmental degradation. And I know this is not the viewership to espouse this truth, but I just feel it weighing on my conscience.
I think this is the audience for environmental concerns. I think that's a label that's been put on conservatives for a long time by liberals, and I don't think it's true. We're the ones worried about cloud seeding.
Yes,
we're the ones worried about.
Thank you, Dr. Loudon. Thank you.
I don't think that's something that we're not concerned about.
Because let me actually underscore what you just said. You know who created the Environmental Protection Agency in 1974? It was Richard Nixon. Yeah. You know who created our national park system? Yep. I'm losing my voice because I'm so passionate about it. The person who basically gave us the idea for the legacy of the American heritage, that was Theodore Roosevelt. You know, before he went crazy and became a progressive, he was originally a Republican. And also Ronald Reagan, he cared about these environmental protections. He cared about clean air and clean water. Who gave us a Clean Air Act? Who gave us a Clean Water Act? It was a Republican. It was a Richard Nixon. This is a deeply conservative...
Conservationists are Republicans.
Yes, it's in the word itself. We are conserving America for future generations, for ourselves. We should care about it. I want the $17.3 trillion of oil to stay in the ground.
Yeah,
well, you know who else we could get it from? Iran.
There is
stop weaponizing
several
their
companies
oil.
that are trying to find a more sustainable way to be able to do it.
And I think
they're
they
trying
will.
to integrate new technologies in it, because I had lunch with the CEO of one of those companies last week, and I think it's going to be fruitful, and I think it's going to be successful eventually,
and also,
when they find the right formula for it and the right strategy.
And
control
of the Strait of Hormuz is a big one. It's a big one, because that's 1/3 of all oil has to pass through there.
I agree.
Yeah,
so that's a big one. So even if the oil, is not usable, that is still a big issue.
Yeah, my view of the world. I want to thank President Trump for reviving American dominance and American hegemony. I'm actually for that. You know, China and Russia are probably watching askance and saying, holy shit, that guy's like, we don't want to mess with him. That is the kind of reaction I want. I also, at the same time, we can be thoughtful people and realize that we suck at nation building and should get out of the business entirely, wash our hands of it, and arm our allies so they can do it. If they care so much, they can do it.
Yes, we'll give you everything you need.
Exactly.
Go.
And the military-industrial complex, they're hungering for another war. We should not give it to them.
No.
But
also, the one federal agency that continually fails each audit 1 year after another, that is the Pentagon. We don't know what they're doing with our money. Exactly. I do know one thing. It's fattening the fat cats and the lobbyists.
The military-industrial complex. I would love to see, instead of us handing money to all of these countries all of the time for them to arm themselves, opening trade with them, giving them trade favorability so they can make their own money, so they can, because I am just so tired of giving all of our money
I am done with the American welfare state. If we want to give money to anyone, let's give it to actual deserving Americans, making them, actually, this is going in a complete direction, but work requirements, people, exactly, work requirements that they actually genuinely need.
Because it's better for them.
Absolutely.
Because that's the
By the way,
humanitarian.
And the countries that we are giving our money away actually have universal health care. They have all these other systems in place where it's like, but we are lacking in all that.
You know what President Trump did that was also fantastic? I want to applaud him for this. He forced NATO.
Yeah, that destroyed Canada.
He forced the North Atlantic Treaty Organization to up their contributions to the organization because we were footing the bill. Now these countries are paying more into it.
Good. I just believe Donald Trump doesn't make one move that does not benefit America more than any other country, because first of all, he's a brilliant businessman. And I think, like I said, I know you're talking about the talking points. Trump's playing 4D chess. I genuinely believe every time he does something that confuses me, whether it's a year later or 5 years later, there's always something that comes out where it's like, I see why he
I don't think that for every single thing he does, no.
When it comes to foreign policy, yes.
I've been working for President Trump since 2015 for free. It has cost me lots of money. I've never made a dime. But let me say this. I do believe that President Trump has one Achilles, and this is a compliment at the same time as it's a criticism, and that is that he loves to make new friends. He loves to trust people. He's an eternal optimist. The problem is, we are going to get a Democrat regime back in.
Yes.
They are going to be. They are going to make. It's true.
You're
they
right.
are going to make Joe Biden look like Chicken Little in terms of their level of fierce socialism. They are going to be. They are going to want every single person sitting at this table right now in jail for what we've said. They will be auditing us, all the rest. If you think for 1 second that every single policy they can reverse that was Donald Trump's, every single policy they can make us pay for, they won't, It's
You know the problem,
it's
Gina?
idealistic to
Trump
think that.
doesn't
That's what I
understand.
fear.
Yeah,
I don't
I
fear
think Trump is playing the long
I fear
game.
what comes next because of Trump's policies.
I don't
where he
fear
was
what comes
trusting.
next. I
What
think
do you
Trump
think is the
doesn't
long
reap
game,
short. I think the long game, money. Think about it.
well, that's
Why does
everybody's
Trump
long
want
game.
Greenland? We're going to get trillions with a T from their natural resources. I think the same thing from Venezuela, and I think if Iran falls, you're going to see a lot more trade because then he's going to cripple China at the same time and Russia at this time. You're going to see that if Iran falls, Russia's going to have to end the war with Ukraine because all of the cheap
You know,
that's coming
we're
back.
out of time, but I just want to tie
reality.
together to our first topic, which is immigration. Another reason why I oppose regime change wars and forever wars is that it leads to illegal aliens coming to the United States because of the instability in their region. You know, we are against legal aliens coming to the country, right? When their nations are on fire and it's all crumbling down, you know where they go? The first place they think of is the United States.
It's a detrimental cause and effect. It's
Exactly.
a detriment. And,
If you
and I'm
don't
talking
want-
about the long-term, long vision. Long-term, long vision, that approach is a detrimental.
And by the way,
you guys are making it seem like I'm a warmonger. I don't
what do you
think
think
an
is going to
attack-
happen if you strike Iran? It's going to be
Russia
gonna
and
cripple
China.
them.
No, we're going to war.
I don't think so.
Of
We
course.
bet.
I mean,
because I think he will strike you.
All right.
I
On
think he
that
will.
note, you guys can leave it to Polymarket, but
I bet on Polymarket. I bet that we're going to strike Iran by February 1st. I said that on Polymarket.
All right, guys. Ladies, I love this fiery discussion. I love that we were able to disagree while not, you know,
killing each other.
Cursing at each other like Anna.
This is a good first step, and I hope all of you will come back. And this is the first time I cared so much I lost my voice.
We need to come back for a Maha only episode. Maha only.
Where can we find you?
My name is Janel Baez. I am at official Janel Baez on Instagram, and I love being here. You're amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really are.
Really?
Yes.
Oh my God.
You're very passionate and
Very
you have
smart.
great talking points, very intelligent.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true, Lindy. You're
Yeah.
just going to have to take it. I'm Real Dr. Gina across all social media, and I love this format. I want to just thank everybody involved with this, especially the folks back channel. I even had conversations with the makeup team and the hair team back there.
amazing. Shout out to
they're
them.
amazing. Shout out to them, who are, by the way, Venezuelan origins, which is fascinating to talk to them. And I just want to say that if we could all have conversations like this around the kitchen table. I'm not one of those people that believes you shouldn't talk about politics and religion at the dinner table. That's what you should talk about, because your family, especially your children, should understand the histories and the things you're talking about every single show.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Lindy.
Thank you so much for joining us. Emily, where can we find you?
I'm at Emily.Austen on Instagram, at Emily R. Austen on X and TikTok, and I also love talking to you guys. Even if on the things we don't agree with, I have so much respect over the fact that at least we're having these conversations and the viewers can decide what they want to resonate with. So shout out to her.
This is probably the most meaningful close we've ever had. I'm Lindy Li, and I just want to thank all of you for coming.
All right, now start beating each other up.
I just want to say, like, we've had very fiery disagreements, and I'm glad that you came back. And we still disagreed today, but I'm glad we were able to do it in a moderately cordial manner. And
It's the minute we
If
don't
you
agree
don't
that we should
disagree,
worry.
it would be very odd if nobody disagreed on anything. It's like,
Yeah.
what is the point of doing this then?
Exactly. Well,
What is the point?
Lindy Li, you can find me on Manect. I'm also everywhere, and I thank you so much. Remember to subscribe, like, and share. Her takers, you guys are fantastic. Thank you for being with us since day one. We won't forget it, and we adore you so much. Have a great night.